Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, audio is working. That's the important thing, and so is the video. All right, folks, good afternoon. Welcome back to another Firestorm Studio stream. My name is Pat, and we are going to be continuing with our A to Z of sculpting creatures in Zbrush series. So, we have now gotten to the letter N, so I'm cheating a little bit. Technically, I am cheating a bit. I'm going to use a nickname. So we're going to be doing Nessie, as in the Loch Ness monster. So yes, technically it begins with an L, but we're going to use a bit of creativity. We're going to use a bit of creativity here, and we're going to choose, N, which is a nice justification for just lying and wanting to do the Loch Ness monster, but I've already having done the letter L. All right, folks. So we're going to let a few more of you find your way in here before we get started. Please do feel free to shout out in the comments, say hi. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how your day is. If you're in the UK, I hope you're enjoying the lovely sunshine that we're getting all across the UK on this bank holiday Monday. I am, of course, stuck inside and very, very warm because I haven't managed to find time to set up my air conditioning. Which I will be setting up for Friday. So, in case you're wondering, folks, we've got a little bit of a different schedule this week. Heather will not be streaming this week at all, neither will Carmen. So you are going to be left with just me, Pete, and Andre. So I'll be streaming Monday and Friday. I believe Pete is streaming on Friday evening, and we have Andre on Saturday. Depending on how well this goes and if I find the time, I may try and sneak in a bonus stream on Wednesday, but I'm not going to make any promises right now because it all depends on work and such. Manic, thank you very much. Glad to know. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. So let's just take this nice and easy. I'm not expecting a busy stream today because it's a bank holiday in the UK, but hopefully we get a few other people coming in and just chilling out while we figure out how to sculpt the Loch Ness monster. I'm a little bit stuck with this one, I'm not going to lie. I've been looking at lots of reference of different creatures and different ideas, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go the realistic route, if I wanted to go a more comical, jokey route. So I've decided to try and find something in the middle. So we're going to go for something a little bit more cartoony, a bit more stylized, and at the same time make it a little bit creepier than the Loch Ness monster is normally. Kind of, still endearing, still kind of got an endearing look to it, but adding in a couple of design choices that I think a creature that lives in a very dark loch would have. Okay, so and to give you an idea, the water in apologies folks, you may hear lots of noise behind me. My office window is open because it's very hot in the UK today, or hot for our standards. So yeah, but yes, the water in Loch Ness is pretty murky. It's not great visibility, so I want to kind of add a few elements of that into the design as well. But yeah, please feel free to shout out in the comments. As always, folks, have a little bit of a conversation amongst yourselves, ask questions. Tell me what you're doing today. Tell me how your weekend was. I want to hear it all. And yes, I do have a cup of tea. Which may seem like an odd choice on a hot day like this, but I always follow what my grandmother always used to tell me, which is if it's a hot day, have a hot drink. That could have been just one of those things that grannies tend to tell you, but hey, I trust my grandmother. Well, I did. Not because she became untrustworthy, it's just, well, she died, so it's kind of hard to trust someone. Anyway, all right, folks, so that dark thing aside, let's move on and get stuck in with our sculpt today. So what you're seeing here on my screen, this is the famous surgeon's photograph. It's actually not the original either, I don't think. I believe this is an AI or photo manipulated version of it. But the surgeon's photograph is one of those famous Loch Ness Monster hoaxes that was one of the clearest images for a long time, and then was eventually debunked over many years, etc. So I just wanted to kind of put this up here just in case anyone was unsure as to what the Loch Ness Monster actually is. So all right. So like I said, folks, we're kind of going in cold here with this one today. Really, I'm really unsure as to how I want to design this. Oh, we just got a follow. Who followed us? I can't see. There's something in the way. I can't even see your name. Apologies, folks. I missed that. Night something. Fire your name into the chat. Say hi so I can grab you, so I know who you are. So I can thank you personally for the follow. All right, folks. Enough of me yammering. Let's get stuck in here. Let me just bring up... one of the things I did find a lot of reference for, and something I'll be referencing a lot, are sturgeons. And if you're not sure what a sturgeon looks like, let me bring in an image in so you can have a look and you can see what this looks like. I'll show you what a sturgeon looks like. They're very large fish, and sturgeons are the most likely culprit for what is actually in Loch Ness. Okay, and there we go. So that's a sturgeon, and you can see a lot of these large lumps and bumps on the top of the fish and down the side of the body as well. So I'm going to try and incorporate some of those elements in as well. Not exactly, just something to kind of use as a bit of reference. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this as well. In fact, you know what? Let's keep the surgeon's photograph up just for a while to kind of inspire us, you know. All right. Okay, folks, enough of me, as I said, enough of me yammering. Let's get stuck in. Okay. So as always, folks, we're going to be starting the way I usually do, and that's with a Z-sphere. I suppose we could maybe do something a little bit different if you wanted as well. We could start with primitives and do a little bit of Z-modeler, actually, to get the shapes I need, because I've got a rough idea of the shape I want, so maybe doing Z-spheres isn't the best option. So yeah, let's start with primitives and some Z-modeler. Okay, we're going to grab the Z-sphere, standard sphere here, drag that out onto the canvas, and we're going to go over to the tool palette and hit Make Polymesh 3D. And we're going to draw that back out again because I forgot to hit the edit button. So now I have something I can actually sculpt on. Now, this object I have in the back of my canvas here, you can see that I'm overlapping over the top of it. That's the model I accidentally dropped onto the canvas. So if I need to get rid of it, I can do two things. I can hit the Control N, so N for new, hotkey, and that will clear it. Or I can just hit my clear button here on my UI. Now, if you need to find this, you go up to Layer, you'll find it here, Clear. Okay, and that will clear it off. This is obviously a custom one for my custom UI. So now that I've got that, I'm going to go into my tool palette again, into Initialize, and I'm going to turn this into a Q-sphere. Hit Shift F to go into my polyframe, and that's a good start. So let's just start by shaping out a rough version of the head. Let's hit Control D once, give ourselves one subdivision surface, and we'll make sure that we have symmetry on. There we go. All this subdivision is going to do is just give me a little bit more geometry to work with while I'm shaping it. So we're going to start out with, I'm going to go for probably the classic kind of more plesiosaur snake-like look than the water horse style. Because sometimes you get like a head that's more shaped like a horse with weird appendages on its head and things. I'm going to go for more the plesiosaur head shape, I think. So with the Move topology brush, I'm going to start roughly shaping this out the way I want it. It looks about right, but I think I want to create a bit of a kind of sharper, more pointed shape to the face. Mostly just to kind of add a little bit more of that stylization in, okay? And one of the things I want to do, and it was when I was thinking about this, what I wanted and how I wanted to sculpt this, I want to add those, the eyes from an anglerfish. Let me find a reference so I can show you. Because my theory is that if you're a creature that lives in a very dark loch, then your eyes are going to need to be quite large so you can gather in as much light as possible, and so that you can actually see what you're looking for. So let me see here. Is it an anglerfish I'm looking for? I think so. Bear with me here. Fish with large eyes. I'm kind of thinking of that large cloudy eye. This is what I'm kind of thinking of. Let me see if I can find a picture here. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of not why. That was not the fish I was thinking of, but it'll do. And yeah. Okay, so let's bring this in. Let's have a quick look. Sorry, folks, I'm having to either Google these or just export them from my Pinterest. Sorry, from my PureRef file. So something like this. So you've got these kind of really large eyes that are there for kind of gathering as much light as possible in a murky environment. There we go. Okay. All right. So that's kind of my plan. I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but that's my plan. So again, going for that more plesiosaur shape. I've got lots of reference for plesiosaurs, and what I did this time with is I didn't look for other people's drawings or other illustrations of the Loch Ness Monster. There was a couple that I really wanted to do. One in particular that I couldn't get the permission from the artist to recreate, which is a shame. But that was probably the only image that I went, oh, I'd really like to remake that. Whereas everything else, I've just approached it from a grab as many like paleontological references and references of things like, you know, other fish and things like that. And a couple of lizards as well, and snakes. So that's the kind of reference I'm pulling in. But as always, folks, a lot of the reference I've got, I don't want to show because it's copyrighted. So, I don't want Firestorm getting in trouble. So let's just, oh, I've moved my plesiosaur image. Where is it? There it is. I'll do almost. Let's just. And here's the thing as well, folks. I'm trying to find the shape here. So we really are just sketching at the moment. We're just trying to find something that we like the look of. And let's go, and we're probably going to go for the kind of surgeon's photo style neck. So we'll go into the subtool palette here, and we'll append polycylinder. Now the polycylinder is going to have too many subdivisions by default. So we'll go down to initialize, and we'll turn this into a Q cylinder. Not only is that going to resize it to something matching more what I'm looking for here. It's going to give me a much lower subdivisions to work with. So it's going to be easier for me to reshape it. I'm going to take this head here and we're going to do that. I think what we'll do is I want the neck to come back a little bit further before it starts to curve. So we've got a bit of the neck after where the skull is. And I think what we'll do here is let's do a bit of cleanup. We're going to grab the poly group at the end here, and we'll just do an auto groups. So I can grab this edge here. And we're not going to use the Z modeler brush quite yet. I'm just going to manually do things so I can get a rough idea of how long I want the neck to be. Just scale that up. Okay. I'm going to apply or append even a new Z-sphere. I keep saying Z-sphere because I'm so used to actually creating objects with it. I meant the standard sphere, and we'll turn it into a Q-sphere once again. And we'll just start scaling this up roughly the size of the body that we might want. And maybe do something like this. I don't want to go for that like really obvious kind of like just rotund body. I want to go for something a bit more streamlined. Almost a bit more snake-like. And I've got another great, again, I've got some really random prehistoric looking, again, it's obviously, they're not photographs, they're paintings of, you know, prehistoric creatures. But some of them are really weird. Some of like prehistoric sea creatures are really fascinating to check out. So, yeah. But in case you hadn't noticed, I am Scottish, so obviously doing Nessie is kind of a this is like the first. I've never done anything Nessie related before. So this is a bit of a first for me. But it's fun. It's nice to kind of do what should be your nation's national creature. You know, for those of you not in the know, Scotland's official national creature is the unicorn for some obscure reason. When in, you know, I mean, common sense dictates it should be Nessie, and you know, and trust me, I have a plan to start a petition to have it changed. And now it's like, is he kidding? Okay, so it looks like I've moved this out of the way a little bit. So I'm just going to go into my subtool list here and actually, no, I'm in the wrong place. Geometry, position. And I'm just going to make sure that all of this is positioned correctly. It's not. So we're going to take the 0 position for the X and just reset that. And we'll do the same for the head, which apparently is fine. That's odd. Okay. Zbrush will do this sometimes. There we go. So all I'm going to do to make sure that's all fixed, because we're at the sketching stage, so it's not that important. I'm just going to do merge down for each of these. And then I'm going to do mirror and weld and see how far that's off. Okay, so we can see how badly that's been moved. And I see what I've done. So what I'm going to do is undo that, and we're going to redo the neck, because it's the neck area that I've messed up. So isolate the head, isolate the body, delete hidden, and we should be good. Let's do another mirror and weld. Okay, so the head is definitely now off. So I'm just going to move that back and make sure we're roughly in the right place. There we go. What's this? Anim Gizmo. Where I live, there are no monsters, but there are legends of witches and dark magic. Ah, excellent. Do you mind telling us roughly where? You don't have to tell us exactly where you are, but, you know, roughly where you are in regards, because it'd be really interesting to know the kind of lore, because I think most places have, you know, dark magic and stuff as a part of their mythology and their lore, and it's something that fascinates me. Central Italy. Oh, lovely. Wow. Okay. All right. So I'm going to append the cylinder again. I'm going to fix what I did the last time. I don't break it this time. And I will just do this instead. Just scale that out. There we go. All right, let's try this again, shall we? That's better. Now we can go into our Z modeler and we can start to add in some extra edge loops so that we've got something to actually work with. Let's grab the mask lasso. And with that mask, we can just center where the object has been unmasked and just start working up the head a bit more. So all I'm doing here is when I mask a certain area, so I'm masking this edge loop and I'm inverting it. You won't see much because we're working at such a low resolution. But if I then go into my move gizmo and hold down Control, Alt, my apologies, and just tap on this locator pin icon, what it's going to do is it's going to move my gizmo to the center of that unmasked area, which is then going to allow me to just move that. It's similar to it's a similar method to selecting lots of vertices on an edge loop in something like Maya or Blender or Max, okay? It's the same kind of principle. There we go. And make sure that symmetry's on. Now I can start just reshaping the neck a little bit. There's a chance we might actually make the neck longer or shorter as we go, once we actually get an idea of what we're trying to create here. I'm going to create a new cylinder and do a new cylinder and just put that into place. So there we go, folks. There's a fun chat topic. Please feel free, let us know what kind of monsters you have in your local area. You know, mythological, you know, folklore. Let us know. I mean, I'm sorry, but the thing is, Nessie's real, and and I'll die on that hill. No mythological monsters here, just very shy ones. And one of the things that I'd like to do here as well is I want to add almost like a tadpole-esque tail to this, and that's inspired by the water snake, or one of the water snake species that you get, where rather than tapering to a point, the tail actually expands out and kind of goes from kind of being very wide, as in this profile, to ending up more like this. I don't know how I managed that, but there we go. Let's just, so yeah. So basically we end up going from this kind of more standard shape of a tail that you would expect, you know, following the spine along the top and then the ribs, and then essentially adjusting and kind of changing shape into a more, as I said, tadpole or rudder-like shape, just so it can like drive itself through the water. So that's definitely something that we're going to incorporate. And this is why whenever you're designing creatures or sculpting, and I'm not a creature designer, folks, that's something I want to point out. I sculpt creatures and I really enjoy creating them, but there's people out there way better, obviously, and, you know, actually designing the creatures and making them look cool and creepy and things like that. So me, I just like to sculpt them. So I'm going to maybe make the tail, yeah, about that long, because I don't want to go for this like really long, the super long serpent-like style of Loch Ness monster. I want to go for something a bit more powerful, a bit more kind of stocky and powerful. Again, it lives in a loch in the middle of Scotland. It's going to be cold, so get some blubber, keep it warm. But I think I might want to make the neck a bit thinner. Again, I want to go for a little bit more comical of a look as well, a bit more stylized, but kind of creepy at the same time. So I'm just going to subdivide that. And as for, you know, the image, if you will, the kind of final image for this, I'm still not sure what I want to do. Part of me wanted to do a little bit of a boat, like, you know, have someone standing in a boat with like binoculars, and then with Nessie behind him. I thought that would be quite fun. Which kind of is inspired by a photo I found of researchers doing the same, looking for penguins, and the penguins are standing behind them. Even if it's fake, it's still funny. So let's now, let me see here. I'm going to go into ZModeler, and just to smooth things out a bit, I'm going to use the bevel command here on my full edge loop. Actually, that's not the one I want. See, this is one of the reasons I'm not a massive fan of ZModeler. It doesn't always work the way my brain thinks when it comes to modeling. So for box modeling, it is a different way of thinking. There we go. And we'll just do an edge loop. There we go. And we'll do one up here too, and let's see how that looks. Always yes. There we go. How are we doing, folks? Hey, as expected, I thought we'd be a little bit quieter today. And it is a Monday. It's a Monday afternoon. Nobody really wants to. I'm with you. Nobody wants to kind of do anything on a Monday, particularly when it's as lovely as this. And I hope most of you are not working. I hope that many of you are actually have the day off. Okay. So with this here, I actually think I will, just to make my life a bit easier, I'm going to split unmasked points. And this is something I know I want. I want this shape here. So I am going to start shaping out the tail. And I am kind of breaking the way I would normally do this, doing this more from a ZModeler perspective. It's not my favorite thing to do in the world, but here we are. And I'm just going to jump over to ZModeler, and I'm going to delete those. Turn on double so I can see what I'm doing here. And I think what I will do is I'm going to insert a couple of edge loops, like so. And then I'm going to fill in the shape a bit more. Camera's been a bit funny, folks. Sorry about this. Try to slow it down a bit. So I'm going to take the bridge command here, turn off symmetry, click once, click twice. I'm going to continue to do that across the object. You're probably thinking, but Pat, you had all that in there. Why are you putting it back? It's because I wanted to add in these edge loops, and then I wanted to control the edge loop, the insert edge loop option, like so, okay? Because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to stitch, and we're going to stitch these together, these points, 1 and 2. Now, I don't really like how that's connected it. If I undo that and go back into the options, you'll notice down here that we have a couple of modifiers for this stitch command. So it says to end point, to midpoint, and to start point. So depending on where you pick your first point when you're connecting it, let's zoom in here. So for example, if I click this one here and then click the top one, I'll get something that looks like that, okay? However, if I do this and then this, it's going to come down into the middle. So that might be fine, and it might just be a case of changing which one you select first. But again, just so that you're aware, you can choose something like midpoint, and then it doesn't matter which one you click, ZBrush is actually going to bring that into the middle, which is exactly what I want because it's going to be accurate, okay? And it gives me that rounded shape that I'm looking for the tail, at least for the block out. Okay. And then what I'm going to do at this side here, I'm going to delete that because we're going to connect that up to the rest of the tail. So we'll just hit delete hidden. And what we're going to do is I am going to mask this out and just drag that towards the tail. And then I'm going to insert an edge loop about halfway. I'm going to grab the end, once again, invert it, and then I'm just going to roughly scale this down again to make it a bit more circular. Scale it up. And then we can combine the tail sections together. Merge down. Okay, there we go. And I am going to have to do a little bit of adjustment here. Make sure that's all fine. Delete hidden. And we'll insert the edge loops again. And now we can just stitch the points together. Apparently. Let me see here. I'm going to switch over to my mouse instead. It's a bit more accurate for this type of thing. There we go. And I've still got midpoint selected. And I'm just going to work my way down and around. Now you'll see that some of them aren't going to line up perfectly, but that's okay. Because again, remember, this is we're just figuring things out and blocking it in from geometry. Now I appear to be missing an edge loop. Well, that's not a big deal. I'll just insert one there. And we'll get them connected. There we go. And then I'll add in a couple of extra edge loops just to give myself something to work with. That should be okay. Hey Vega, thanks very much for coming along. How are you doing today? How are you doing this afternoon? I hope you're busy. All right. And let's see how we're doing. Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for. It's a little, the shaping here is a little bit extreme, but that's easy enough fixed. No big deal there. And it looks as though I might need to do a little bit of reshaping as well along the top here. Again, this isn't really something I'm overly concerned about because I'm going to be dynameshing it together shortly anyway, once I get the rough shape that I want. Doing good. Block out for the sword is basically done. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that was looking really nice, by the way. I spotted it last night. I haven't really been on Discord all weekend. I've been away doing other things, and I kind of checked in and tried to kind of work my way back through things late last night, which was a big mistake. But yeah, the sword's looking great, Vega. Nice work. Really nice work. Really nice work. Okay, let me see what else we're doing here. And again, folks, the other thing to remember here is that generally I will try and work a bit slower because I know there's a bit of a delay with Twitch. So I want to work a little bit slower so that if anyone has any kind of questions or queries, you can ask them. Okay? And please do, folks, please do. Or hey, maybe if you look at something I'm doing and go, but Pat, why are you doing it that way? Right? Well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Because the thing is, folks, I am going to work the way that I find the most comfortable and the way that I can work quickest. But that doesn't mean that there isn't another way that might be faster. So I'm always open to hearing different ways or new features or things that you can do in Maya and Zbrush and stuff. Because even though I've been using Maya since 2005. Yes, 2005, and professionally since 2008. Okay, ZBrush I've been using since about 2009, and that was when I started to learn it, and then probably professionally since 2010, 2011. Okay, so you know, even though I've been using the software for a long time, doesn't mean I know every little bell and whistle. So there's something that, you know, you think, hey, that might be quite cool to know, fire it into the chat. I'm always open to hearing new things like that, folks. And you should be as well. Okay? You know, you're an artist in our field. That's what you should do. You should always be open to learning new new stuff, new tools, all that kind of stuff, unless it's AI. But that's just my personal that's my personal opinion on AI. I have my limits. Thank you. You're welcome, Vega. You're welcome. All right, folks. So we've got the kind of cool shape that I wanted for this. It's maybe a little bit too tapered. I don't want it to be completely, I don't want it to actually be thicker at the end. So I'll maybe just grab this section here and go into my deformation palette and just do a little relax on those shapes, and then maybe a bit of a polish. There we go. The polish is what I wanted. There we go. What's this? George, 3DHS. I worked for a company for 4 years as a 3D journalist, and now I'm finding it hard to get clients as a freelancer. I don't know how to take the first step. Okay. I sympathise with you, George. Apologies if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I'm pronouncing that either as George or Jorge. So starting out as a freelancer is very difficult because most of your, well, a lot of your kind of client work is probably going to come from networking. That's how you're going to get known by smaller companies and small studios and outsourcing places and things like that. So that would be my first recommendation. If you are just starting out and you're just moving in to work as a freelancer, you have to start making some new connections and networking at different events. And networking doesn't have to mean going all over the world and all over the country to attend these things. You can start off online through forums and through things like LinkedIn. I hate to say it, but LinkedIn is still a really good place to network for this type of work. Okay. And the next thing as well is that start to market yourself on social media. All right. It's something that I used to do, and then I stopped for a long, long time. And I'm now slowly starting to get back into it. Okay. So networking and marketing yourself. And here's another thing that you can do. If you're not getting clients, right? Or if you're finding it difficult to get clients, well, you need something to grab that client's attention. So I don't know what kind of work that you particularly like to do, okay? But what I would recommend is do a mock project. Do a mock project for your business as a freelancer and use that as your portfolio piece. You know, something that you've done all the way through potentially. You know, say for example, let's say you do a mock advert for a beer, some kind of beer or a fake beer brand or something like that. Just something to showcase your skill set, because as soon as people start to see that, they'll go, oh, wait a minute, this guy can do oh, we need somebody that can do a beer bottle advert, or we need somebody that can do a car advert. It's a lot of the work that has come my way, it's because people have seen something I've done that they know that they need, that they go, hey, we need somebody to do that. For example, I recently did a rework of an old piece of an old chimpanzee model I had. I posted it just as a bit of fun, really, more than anything else. And I got a handful of messages asking me about, hey, we actually have we need somebody to do a monkey or a gorilla or a chimpanzee. And it's once they see that you can do that work, they go, oh, well, maybe we'll speak to them. And that's how you start to get the ball rolling as a freelancer. But it's going to take a lot of work. That's one thing I will say. You have to be prepared yourself for a lot of long nights and being tired quite a lot, because being a freelancer is literally about marketing yourself all the time. Okay. And that is really how you should take the first step, Jorge or George. That's what I would recommend. Get yourself out there, start marketing yourself as a business, as an artist, and push that, okay? And keep pushing it, all right? One of the things that our founder, Heather, suggested to me is a platform called Buffer. So that's buffer.com. I would recommend going to there and using that as a way to kind of help post your work frequently and consistently to different platforms, okay? No, my pleasure. Again, it's a really hard thing to be like, yeah, do this, because it might not work. So that's why I'm trying to be quite vague about it and quite general. The mock projects are a good idea. Okay, lots of people I know have gotten work by making for example, I have a friend that was desperate to work with Cadbury's years ago. Well, they made a fake Cadbury's advert. Cadbury's, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, is a brand of chocolate here. Okay, and they got to work with Cadbury's, you know, and that's because they made a fake advert for it. Okay, as an example. All right, as an example. All right, okay, folks, let's get stuck into continuing the rest. So we need some flippers, right? We need flippers, and I'm not sure if I want to do flippers at the front and the back. But I think actually I'm going to jump into my sturgeon reference here, and we're going to just copy the sturgeon's flippers here. I think that's what we'll do. So I am going to grab the body here. I'm going to go into my brush menu. I'm going to go into curve tube, stroke, turn on the size, and I'm going to reset that and then just flip it. And what I do need to do is delete the lower subdivisions so that I'm working with no subdivisions. And I want to now just start working with the flipper shape. So I don't like the overall shape there. So what I'm going to do as well, I'm going to go back into stroke and I'm going to change the size here so it's not as extreme. So it doesn't taper down to as fine a point. And that's more what I'm looking for. So I'm going to do that on the bottom here because this is where the flippers are actually coming out of, or the fins are coming out of for the sturgeon. Suppose we could also do that. Yeah, that works. Okay, so now that I've drawn out the curve, I can go back in. You can see that I'm grabbing the top section here, and that's going to allow me to move this around. I apologize for any weird graphical artifacts that you're seeing there. And the next thing I'm going to do is go back into stroke, and under the curve functions, actually no wait, curve, sorry, not curve functions, I'm going to choose lock start. Okay, now if you remember, I drew the curve from the top here and then out. So now with that option for lock start enabled, if I start moving the flipper or the curve, this will not move. Okay, now I can start to adjust the shape of the flipper the way I want. And what I'm creating here is just let's just check the size there. Yeah, that's pretty good. And just move that back up into the shape of there we go. I am getting quite a lot of weird graphical issues though, so apologies folks. You can see a bit of tearing on my display here. There we go. And I'm going to drag this down. Looking okay. Again, I'm just kind of going with what feels right at the moment. Okay, with that done, looking at the shape there, I'm going to hold Alt and click on the surface. That's going to delete the curve. So now I can no longer go in and edit that. Obviously, if I hit undo, I can go back in and make further changes, but I think I'll stick with what we have. Hold Alt and just click. And now I'm going to use what should we do? Yeah, let's use the insert mesh brush here. So we'll go to insert mesh brush, IMM primitives. I'm going to grab a polysphere and I'm going to drag that along the length of that. Now with that selected, okay, getting a bit of an issue here with the symmetry. So in order to fix that, if I turn on dynamic symmetry and turn off the local symmetry and turn off the dynamic option, I can now scale these sections as I need. I'm just going to scale them up a bit. And then we will use our move brush to bring these in together. So again, I'm actually looking at sturgeons here as a reference for how I want these flippers to look. Okay. Just lost all of today's work. Oh no, Dennis, how did that happen? I mean, I know you don't like the autosave feature, Dennis, but it might be time to turn it back on. Because this is happening a lot for you, and you don't want to be losing work like this, mate. That's horrible news. I'm sorry. Because that's going to be a lot of work. I know that's a lot of work for today for you. So Zbrush just crashed while I was changing song. Yes. This is something that I feel, actually, this is something I need to point out. Zbrush is probably one of the most selfish pieces of software I've ever used. It likes to be the only thing you're working in. I've noticed this a lot. If you switch to a different software package or something like Spotify or your music player, Zbrush will just sometimes crash. I'm not sure why. It just has done that to me over the years. It's why when I've told, it's when I've been teaching before, and most of the time when I teach, it's not just Zbrush. I teach how to go between Zbrush and Maya and Substance Painter, etc. So a lot of the time, you'll maybe start off a displacement map calculation in Zbrush, or it's saving. And the normal thing is to try and be more efficient with your time as you move over to another piece of software. But what will happen is when you do that, Zbrush will go, well, I don't like that. Focus on me, and then it'll just crash. So just something to be aware of, folks. Something to be aware of. Okay, but I'm sorry that's happened today, Dennis. That's rotten luck. That's really rotten luck. So I know the shape here is quite similar to a standard kind of flipper that you've seen, but what I am trying to do here is I'm trying to get the kind of wider section and then have it taper in so that it does replicate the look of the fin of the sturgeon a bit more. And then what I'm going to do is with the fin on the sturgeon, it does have this, you know, very solid front end part here, and then a fairly semi-transparent fins coming back. I don't know the anatomical specifications and what they're actually called. It's completely went out my brain today. It's too warm. It is, yes, it's now 27 degrees in my office. It's becoming quite uncomfortable. But we have hit the hour. We are on the hour, folks. So that means, well, you know what that means. It's time for me to remind you all to please, if you want to learn more about what Firestorm Studios is about, who we are, and how you can join our community, please feel free to check below in the banner below this video. You'll see links to our social medias and a QR code to take you to our Discord. If you're interested in learning how to use a particular piece of software, how to work in the industry, no matter the specialism, check out Firestorm Studios. We will have a mentor that, or a mentorship that will suit you. Okay, so please feel free, if you're interested in mentorships or learning more about what it is we do, jump over to the Firestorm Discord and reach out to us via DM. All right. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me now. I will answer what I can. And it's also worth mentioning that if you are interested, like I said, you'll get all the information you do need in our Discord. Maya and Zbrush, perfect duo for crashes. Yes, that's very true. That's very true, Jorge. George, sorry. 3D. I'm going to start calling you 3DHS so that I don't mispronounce or mispronounce your name. Okay. And I think what we'll do is, just for the speed of it all, we will, yeah, we're just going to duplicate these. So what I'm doing here, folks, is I've created the flippers as I need, and then all I'm doing, masking them out, or inverting the mask, holding down Control, clicking and dragging and then that's going to let me scale down these flippers. And I can also, because I have local symmetry on, I can rotate them as needed and then bring them in together. So let's take a look here. Looks like we're going to have to make the body a bit longer, actually. I know I didn't want to do that, but that's not feeling balanced to me. Okay, so I'm going to bring everything, I'm just going to merge everything down, merge it all into one. I'm okay with that. That's fine by me. And I think the tail is actually, it's the tail that's bothering me. Let's see. Let's see if we can just... Just going to lower the intensity of my smooth here and just going to start playing around with the shapes a bit more. Potentially need to, we need to do some auto groups as well, or do some poly grouping here. So we're going to take the back fins, poly group those, and we'll do the same with the front fins as well. There we go. So now that's going to allow me to just unmask it and then just start moving these around until I feel as though they are working for me. And again, this is one of the reasons I tend to work with Z-spheres, because I can get to this stage very, very fast and I can start working those proportions out. But it's really 6.5 a dozen, because if I can get the proportions right at this stage here, I've already got the geometry I need. It's already approximately in the shape I need, and then I can just dynamesh it together and start doing what it is I need to do. And even though I said I wasn't really up for this more long serpentine look, that seems to be where we're going. Because I think I want to increase the size of the neck here. Let's just... Yeah, that's looking kind of cool. I think what we'll do is we'll take the tail and... Oops, doing it all wrong, folks. There we go. Let's just take the tail, mask, invert, and bring that down. There we go. I'm just going to... and then just smooth that back. But again, folks, here's another thing, folks. If you see something, if you like it, if you don't like it, fire it into the chat. You know, there's no harm in saying, no, Pat, that looks terrible. Seriously, you know, I I have been doing this long enough that, you know, critique is one of those things that you just have to learn how to take, good or bad. And there is such a thing as good and bad critique. So, and that's something that you know, if you teach or anything like that, or you mentor, you learn to give good and bad critique. I've done it myself. I've critiqued people in the wrong way, and it's not been helpful to them. And that's unfortunately part of the learning. That's part of the learning curve. No matter what you're doing, you will do something wrong. Okay, so, and that's actually quite a good thing to learn, or good thing to kind of do. Fail early. Learn to fail early, because you're going to fail at some point when you're doing something, and that's a good thing. Okay, so right, let's just start. Why are you not? Oh, it's the move. There we go. Wrong move tool. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to start shaping the body a bit more. I think what we need to do is we need to subdivide this. So we're going to do Control D. So again, little trick. If you have polygroups, you can isolate a polygroup and hit Control D, and that's going to add a subdivision only to that visible polygroup. You can do the same thing with masking. So if I just wanted to add subdivisions to the top part of the body, like this, I could mask it, invert it, and then when I hit Control D, ZBrush is only going to selectively add subdivision to that unmasked area, and it will add in the appropriate topology needed in order to transition between something lower poly into something higher poly, okay? But what you'll notice is that it doesn't smooth it or shrink it the way it normally does with a standard subdivision. So what this is doing is it's just adding extra subdivisions for you to work with. And it's going to be up to you to go in and start smoothing that out. I'm just going to relax this. And the thing is, folks, as well, I am tempted with this image. This could be a bit of a longer one as well, similar to the Mothman. I don't know, because I think what I'm changing the rules up a little bit, depending on what it is we want to cover with. Let me just, yeah, there we go. Just on a mirror and weld there, I noticed the head was a little bit off kilter. That's fine. What we've always done is said, right, we're just going to do this cold and we're going to do it live on stream. And that's still going to be truthful. But depending on what it is we want to do and what we want to actually cover, I might work on these in between as well. Because I'd like to start moving more into spending more time with the posing and the painting and maybe adding details to these creatures, which I think might kind of change it up now that we're in the second part of this series. Okay, so it's just kind of a natural evolution. And if you like that idea, great, let us know. Come over to the Discord and pop it into the chat. Okay. We've got suggestion boxes and everything over there, so you know, come over, say hi, follow our rules. There is rules. I hate to, you know, everything needs rules and order. So but you will not be disappointed. It's a really great community over there. A really great community. Okay. The tail's bothering me. This is the problem. I feel as though naturally in my head, I feel as though the tail needs to naturally taper to a point. I think that's what I'm used to. And I think these are too far back. Where is my sturgeon? Where is my sturgeon? Let me have a look at some other images of. Okay. So I guess what we could do is we could actually taper the tail down and then add the fins afterwards, right? That could work. And let's just, I don't know if it's too short or if it's too, let's see. See, I do want to add some of those like sturgeon kind of style spikes to the top as well. So there we go. I joined the Discord. Excellent. Welcome. Good to have you. Right, let's just. So I'm quite happy with the fins. It's everything else that's just not really working for me at the moment. Actually, let's go. See how that works. Just posing the tail slightly at the moment, just to see how long I think the tail needs to be. I don't actually like that, because again, I want actually more of the tail to be more of this shape. Looking a bit better. What do we think, folks? I have to go. It's been a pleasure. I'll come back again. Have a good day. Thank you very much. Appreciate you staying for as long as you could. And yes, you're welcome back anytime, Jorge. All right. Have a good day. Okay, that's working pretty well. Let's see. Let's maybe make these fins a little bit bigger and bring them a bit higher. There we go. Oh no, I forgot to undo the disaster of the tail. Okay, so one of the cool things about ZBrush is that, yeah, I could go all the way back and then redo the shape of the actual flippers, or what we can do is we can step back until the tail is straight, like so, and then what we can do is we can do a little work. There we go. Use Control and click on the undo, and then step forward, and then with that tail we can do a project history. So under Subtool, project history. Oh no, sorry, I've used the wrong, my brain isn't working. History recall is what I meant to do. So we should be able to now just do, oh no, wait, is it morph target? Is that what it is? My apologies, folks, hold on. Brain isn't working today. So it really is too hot. Go back, make a morph target, that's it. And then we should now be able to, or has it broken? Oh, have I broken something? I did, I broke it. Okay, folks, I don't know what I did there, but I've broken. I'm just going to redo the flippers here instead. There we go. And let's maybe bring these back a little bit as well. They're maybe a little bit too far forward. Well, that's a bit better. Okay. And we'll just straighten the tail out a little bit more. I'm going to add a bit of a curve to the tail. I'm going to thin the tail out a little bit at the end. Add in another edge loop. Oops, get a bit closer, get that edge loop in there. There we go. And we'll just smooth it down. And then I think what we're going to do is, I think I want to bring these down a bit. So we're going to mask them out, bring them down, and probably increase the size again. Which means the front ones need to be a lot larger as well. Quite like this. Again, I like the idea of the larger. I'm thinking of a seal. I have this, I've got this reference image of a seal, and because I want to go for a more stylized, a little bit of a goofy but creepy is kind of what's going on in my head. A goofy but creepy looking Loch Ness monster. You know, like clumsy, like he would come out onto the shore and like knock things over, you know, causing havoc amongst the locals and the tourists, but not actually meaning to, you know. That's kind of the vibe I want to go for with this guy. or this lass, should I say, you know. Okay. And let's get the tail fin in. I think for this, what we'll do is we will append a new shape. Actually, you know what we could do? We could go into mask and just use a mesh extrude. Okay. Wait a minute, there is a mesh. Where is it? Nah, we'll do mesh extrude. Okay, so make sure that I'm looking at an orthographic view, and if I just mask out the shape, that's not what I wanted. Interesting. Come on, Zbrush. Thing is, today I am very, very aware of how warm it is, so I know that I'm not going to be as focused today. That's just, so I've just noticed something that I just don't like the shape of there. Let's play about with these a bit more. That's better. Okay. So let's append. Yeah, actually, let's append a plane. I think I might do it this way. Because I know that's right in the middle. And then what I can do here, I can go under geometry, dynamic, turn on dynamic, and I'm just going to increase the thickness. And by default, what ZBrush will do is it will add the thickness from either side. So it means I know that it's equal when I'm doing it this way. And what this is going to allow me to do is if we physically subdivide it and then delete the lower, so it's quite high resolution. Now I can actually just go and make the shape I want. And of course now ZBrush does what I wanted it to do earlier. Well, I'm over it. So we could do something like this. And now we can paint in any adjustments that we want to do with this mask. And it's not going to be the final shape, but it gives us something to work with, okay? And I'm kind of, the kind of crazy shape I'm going for here, I'm just trying to bring in a little bit of the kind of kelpie water horse myth as well, where it's like there's seaweed and things like that. I thought that might be quite nice, but we'll see whether or not it works once we get this into a mesh. Okay. And then let's take our mask and we'll take the mask pen and we'll just do that. I think I'm going to double it. I think I'm going to flip it over once I've got the shape I need. And then it might kind of trail off at the end as well, which would be quite cool. Okay, so now that I've got that, I'm just going to sharpen that up. Audrey, Nessie, hi all. Hey Audrey, how are you doing? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control W this time. I'm not going to do an extraction, I'm going to do it at Control W. Because remember, this is just dynamic thickness. Okay, it's a fake, it's not real. So what I can do is I can jump back to Audrey, thank you very much for the follow, much appreciated. So what I can do is I can get rid of that. Now that I've polygrouped it, I can get rid of it, right? And then just do delete hidden. And now I've got a rough piece of geo. Now I can do, actually what you could do before you did this actually, is you could do an edge loop masked border if you wanted as well. You could also do, if you go into edge loop here, okay, so I need to hide it. I don't use these very often, so I do that. Edge loop, now when I go back in, it's created a nice clean edge around my geometry. So now I can delete this, and when I smooth it, it's going to create some nicer geometry for me to work with. But what I'm actually going to do is delete hidden, and then I am going to just isolate it and see if there's any area I need to remove. So I'll just do that and delete hidden again, clean this mesh up. I'm going to clean the shape a little bit, like so. And then I will just duplicate it. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a mirror and weld here. So interesting. Okay. I'll duplicate it as I wanted. There we go. So we'll duplicate it. 180. Bring it together like so. And then I can reshape some of this. And we'll just do a quick merge down. Oh no, we don't need to, they're actually combined. What I need to do is go into geometry, and I'm going to turn on dynamic again, just to get that thickness that I needed, and I'll hit apply. Okay. Once it's done like that, we can dynamesh it. And then once it's dynameshed, obviously we're now able to make sure that symmetry is working. There it is. That's fine. So we can do what we need to do with this now that it's got symmetry working. We can adjust the shape of things. And I'm not going to worry too much about this. If I need to, I'll just go into deformation and do quick polish. Turn on AccuCurve. And we can start pulling some of this stuff together. Again, this isn't going to be our final. We're just playing around with it, trying to get a bit of a shape that we might like. Okay. I might change it. I think I'm going to go for a bit of a chunkier look. There we go. The other idea as well is to kind of go for like a manatee style tail, where it's kind of flat at the end as well, or like a whale tail type of thing. We could do that as well. But I've always liked the kind of tadpole-esque tails. So with that kind of shape there, now I'm just going to jump into turn off Dynamesh, Z-Remesher, and do a quick Z-Remesh. And if there's any areas I don't like, which are areas like this bit at the bottom, I'm just going to remove that with Sculptris Pro. And then I can start reshaping bits as I see fit. Remember, the larger the brush with Sculptors Pro, the lower the tessellation will be, so you can actually start to remove bits as well. You can remove parts of your mesh. And just do another Z-remesh. And once we've kind of got a rough shape, I can go in to half and just keep reducing it until it's really low. And that's going to be much easier to manipulate and change the shape of. Okay. Turn on adaptive and do that again. Maybe went a little bit low, so let's do double. There we go. And we'll do a smooth pass as well. That's maybe a bit much. Let's just try smooth. There we go. Do a quick close holes, and we'll do another Z-remesh. And this is the kind of thing that you're going to have to do quite a lot when you are making things in ZBrush. You may have to go back and forth between things like Dynamesh, Z-remesher, Sculptors Pro, until you get the shape that you need. Okay. You can see that's quite high at the moment. So now that I've got that, I'll switch back to half, and there we go. That's much better. Okay. So again, I don't know if I like that or not. I'll think about it, you know, and we might change it next time, or I might change it in between times. We'll just have to wait and see. But what we are going to do is we're going to do a quick save. A to Z, Nessie, and just make a new folder for that. And we'll call it Nessie1. But of course, I've done something wrong, which we are going to fix. I haven't given myself a file name. So the body here, which I don't want to be called Nessie1, is now Nessie1. We need to go to Append, create a cube, and we're just going to scale that down and position it roughly in the middle of where our character would be. And we will now resave this scene file as Nessie2. That's going to let us rename this to body. And I'm just going to call this tail fin. Save. So with the body, we're going to duplicate it. Okay, we've got about a half hour left. I'm going to take the body here, and I'm going to Dynamesh it together. In fact, do I want to do that? Yeah, I want to do that. Why not? Let's live dangerously. So, turn off blur, Dynamesh. Let's see how much that's given us. Probably too much. Probably too much. Yeah, it's a bit heavy. So, we'll go back and we'll maybe drop that resolution to about half and Dynamesh again. That's better. That's much better. Okay. So now, making sure we have symmetry on, we'll take our sculpting brushes, turn off Sculptors Pro, and we're only going to work in this Dynamesh mode for the time being. We're not going to add any subdivisions because I think we've got more than enough to work with. And you can see that because of the way that I built that fin, we've got a lot of that shape for free. Okay, so we've got that little extra lip. If you lose it a little bit, there's nothing wrong with going in with an inflate brush and just inflating the edge a bit, like so. And the fins are looking a bit rough, but we'll deal with that fairly soon. So let me just bring up my sturgeon because that's what I want to use as reference for the body. Where is the sturgeon gone? There it is. Okay. So we will, like I said, my kind of idea for this was a goofy kind of looking head, but also a bit creepy looking. So I'm going to add in a sphere and scale that down. There we go. And like I said, I want these kind of really large, cloudy eyes. You know, so that it looks almost, so it looks quite creepy but jovial at the same time. I'm going to mirror those across. So I'm just going to go to mirror, merge into one subtool, and okay, this is where we may need a little bit more resolution so that I can get the shape I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that trick that we had before. I'm going to mask out this part of the head and hit Control D just to add a bit of, just extra little bit of subdivision there. And then that's going to give me a bit more on the head here. Now we could have used Sculptris Pro, but I'd rather just use one extra level of sub D. And this is awesome. Oh, thanks very much, Audrey. Appreciate that. Thank you. Very nice of you to say. So I'm going to smooth this back first, and then let's start again using the plesiosaur skull as my main reference here. Let's just grab the damn standard and I always love this part of a model because it looks like a sock puppet. It looks like a sock puppet. So let's give these eye sockets something to sit in. So these massive eyeballs something to sit in. So we need some over-the-top eye sockets. I'm going to bring up the nose a bit here. Kind of create that almost beak kind of look to it. And let's get a little bit of the neck in. Like so. And I can't help myself, I'm going to end up putting some anatomy in here anyway, so just indicate roughly some musculature in the neck, maybe thin it out a bit because it's not tapering the way I would want. Take the damn standard and just create where the spine is going to go. And I'm probably going to add some details along the spine as well. Again, similar to the sturgeon. You know, because sturgeon's got these little scales running all the way down its back. So I'm just going to add that in. Not worried too much if it looks right at the moment because I can clean it up later. Mostly going for the eyeballs here at the moment. Let's try and get these looking really goofy if we can. There we go. I mean, this may not work. This might just look too stupid, but we're as well trying it and seeing how far we get. Part of me is thinking we're going to end up having to use Sculptris Pro because we just don't have the we just don't have the resolution at this point. But again, we can try and make it work. And I do like I want to try and keep the silhouette of the surgeon's photo one because it is one of my, you know, even though it's a fake, it's, you know, it's a hoax, obviously. I do like the shape of it. So that is some pretty low res work that we've done so far, but I'm going to grab the trim dynamic. And again, this is why I always say to people, this is why you should spend a lot of time in your early stages of a model, because you can see how quickly we now have a passable model. For example, if I was working on this in a pipeline, and somebody was like, right, we need a model really quickly. It has to kind of look like the concept or whatever, but we need to get it over to rigging fast so that they can start figuring out the early stages of how the rig might work in this and they can start doing early tests. That's kind of what you want to do. You want to get something very quick that's workable and then you can send it on to other people. And that's just generally how I tend to work a lot of the time. So what I would do with this is I would do a quick, I wouldn't do a Z remesh. If I was sending it to rigging, I would do proper topology. But something like this isn't going to need anything overly fancy at this early stage. You know, there's also the option to do, kind of split the model up into sections, and then do something called a calamari rig, which, if you're unaware, is where, let's say, you would do something like this. This is just to kind of visualize it for you. Okay, so if I turn off line here, if you've got a calamari rig, each of these sections here would be separate objects in a rig, and you would send that over to rigging, and then that way they don't have to worry about weight painting or anything or skinning or anything like that. It allows the model to be kind of animated. You see all the forms, etc., which means it can then be handed over to animators, and then they can see the forms, but also the rig will behave very quickly, so they can get so that the animator isn't kind of, you know, restricted in any way. It's less important, I guess, these days, because systems are more important, but sorry, more important, more powerful than they used to be. But you know, something that I had when I saw a lot of when I was starting in the industry. I have some fish reference here as well, folks, for like the bottom of the belly and stuff and things like that. So I do want the kind of almost the spine to kind of start to morph into where that fin is going to be, and this is where those sturgeon-esque shapes are going to be. So if we take the move brush here with AccuCurve, I might want to see, you know, some of these. So I'm just going to do something like this. And that's the thing, you know, all those, that's the kind of, a lot of the sightings are lots of bumps and humps across the water. Well, the sturgeon fish has all these bumps along, and sturgeon can grow to a good 3 meters long, I believe. I'm pretty sure there's some really large sturgeons that people have caught. So these are maybe a little bit big, but still a little bit big. So let's, you know what? Yeah, they're just a little bit big. Also, apologies, folks, if you hear any background noise. My office window has to be open, and my street is quite busy. And it is a lovely day, so there's a lot of people outside yelling. So let's just, there we go, that's a bit better in scale. Just something along those lines. And then we can take our damn standard and we can start indicating roughly where these might actually start protruding. Again, this is all very, very early, just playing around with it, getting a shape. There we go. I think I may have, yes, I re-dynameshed the whole body by accident. Oh well, not a problem. We'll just mask the head and subdivide that a couple of times. And then we'll smooth it back. So now I'm going to take my trim dynamic brush and I can start to block out some of these forms a bit better. And because I want to go for something a bit goofy and a bit more kind of bit creepy, I am going to try and keep this as clean as possible, so more stylized. Right. What other reference do we have here? So let me just pull that back a bit and start building up some of the head. We'll just take the masking tool here. We're just going to mask out the top so I can work on the bottom. There we go. That's better. Instantly makes him look a wee bit goofier, or her look a little bit goofier, and a bit more jovial. And I'm just going to try something here. Yeah, I like that. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to fill the object with white. Then I'm going to invert, and I'm just going to fill it with a grey. There we go, and then that way I can keep that. There we go. That's kind of what I want. Something a bit goofier looking. And with this, I can actually invert that and polygroup out the top of the head, so I can always go back to it, and it's a bit easier to work with. Now, there's a chance that we will change a lot of this, but I'm quite happy to stick with this for the time being. I might get rid of the pupil. We'll see how I feel. I can, as I said, I want to make it look creepy and as well. But if Goofy looks better, then Goofy looks better. And that's the thing, folks. We are at this point, we're just sketching. So we're just sketching. But I'm starting to, yeah, it's starting to. It's starting to get somewhere that I'm kind of liking. I'm not 100% sure on the way the mouth is looking, but oh, that's an idea. Snake-like mouth might be could be quite cute. Okay. Right, with that done, I can now just start. Oh, wait a minute. We need to. We're going to have to remask this, I think, because we've done a little bit of extra work. So let's just. There we go. A new mask around the mouth. Because what you'll notice is that the lower jaw is really far in, and it's creating quite an unappealing look from here. It actually looks like a sock puppet, so we don't really want that. We want it to look like it's got some structure now. So now we have to start pulling this out. Although I need to grow that mask. I just keep missing. There we go. Keep missing that part. So I'm going to shrink that a little bit, sharpen. There we go. That's better. It's a bit better. And what I'll do here is I'm going to soften it, and then I'm going to move this up like so. And then we'll just smooth all this back. What a cute little guy, Strooby art. Thank you very much, Stroobs. Thank you. Appreciate that. He's getting there. We're getting somewhere. We're still sketching. We're still just trying to find him, or find her, should I say. So somewhat unrelated, folks, but you know, just because I do tend to watch a lot of movies. I watched Cold Storage at the weekend. Very good movie, actually. Kind of fun zombie affair type thing, but like fungus-based zombies, which is quite fun. There we go. And we'll just and of course now I'm going to save again. Now it is almost, we're going to have to be closing up shop fairly soon, folks, but we can't really have the Loch Ness Monster without, you know, what is affectionately known as a See You Jimmy hat, which is basically just a tartan bonnet with red hair sticking out of it. It's a very classic thing to get for tourists when you're up in Scotland. But I thought, why not? Let's give Nessie one, you know. So, but first of all, we are going to do some proportional changes. See, this is what I was meaning. Bro looking cute rather than scary. Yeah, that's the thing. The creepy factor hasn't there, but the goofiness is taking over, and it's kind of appealing to me more. And I am thinking we might need to make the next more. I like the head, put it that way. I'm liking the face, so at the moment. So we do that with the eyes, he will immediately become less appealing. So, for example, if I duplicate the eyes, and let's say I decided to, let's do something like a grey pink or something, and we just fill that object with that colour there. What actually, you know what, let's go white again, but this time what we'll do is with the grey is we'll take a paintbrush with this alpha, and if we start to kind of create more of a milkier look to it, it can start to look a bit creepier. Just bringing up the so it has that kind of more deep sea kind of look to it. That's interesting. What happened there? I don't know what I just did. Weird. Okay. Let me just do a quick save there, folks, because that's odd. UI just config restore custom UI. Ah, weird. Getting some very weird graphical issues today, folks. Some very weird graphical issues. Anyway, so like I said, well, let's zoom out a little bit and see how he's looking. Turn on the original cute eyes. I am liking it. I think we might have to go goofy rather than scary or creepy-ish. But then again, all it takes is a change of the eyes, add some teeth, and he'll immediately look creepier. So with that in mind, I think what we'll do here is let's do a T-pose mesh, and let's just have a little bit of a play with the proportions. Let's just play with the proportions a bit. I think I like that better. Yeah, that's much better. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, that looks way better, doesn't it, folks? I'm saying that like I haven't already decided that I prefer it. That's much better. Okay, T-pose sub T, and we now fix it because that is quite the mess from a Dynamesh perspective. So let's just get in there and clean all this up. And I think what we'll do is we'll turn on Sculptris Pro, and that'll help us clean up this mess that I've made. There we go. And turn off the Sculptris Pro again so we can smooth this out. And then we can fix the tapering issue. There we go. Now, we're getting a little bit messy around the messy. It's okay, folks. You may not be entertained, but I entertain myself. It's never good when you laugh at your own jokes. Okay, so I'm just going to clean up the neck a little bit. Just try and make it a bit more consistent. There we go. And then turn that off, and now I can smooth that a bit more. There we go. That's better. And we'll make these a bit smaller as it goes back. Okay, so now for the See You Jimmy hat, which, as I said, is just a tartan bonnet. So, and we have two, as I said, we've got two different versions of the eyes. We've got somewhat less scary eyes. We've got goofy eyes, and we've got those eyes. So we'll do variations. We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a bit of a balance. This isn't bad for our first little, our exploration of the character. And as I said, we're going to do, I laughed because you laughed. See, that's the thing. See, you know, it's the power of suggestion. Okay, so let's do a quick See You Jimmy hat. So we'll append a cylinder, and I'm just going to hide everything else for the time being while I pull over an image into my Pure Ref. To be honest, I mean, I'm quite familiar with them, but you know, still want to make sure we get it accurate. Accuracy is important. You know, when you're mocking your country. Okay, so we've got the band, if you will, for it, and then we'll append a polysphere, which we will immediately dynamesh somewhere a bit lower. There we go. We'll go a wee bit lower still. That's better. And all I'm going to do here, flatten out a little bit, and then mask out. Probably just best do this with a square mask, I think. Do something like this, and then that's, so all I've done really is mask the bottom of the sphere. Why not use solo mode instead of hiding every subtool? I use a mix. Generally, it'll be depending. I mean, solo mode, yes, is great sometimes when you just want to work on one specific item. But if you're only wanting to work between two different objects, say, for example, I want to check between, say, two versions of the eye, sometimes it's good to have them just turned on and visible at the same time. So it's just depending. It's kind of very dependent on the task at hand more than anything. Okay, so what I'm now doing is I'm now just going to start pulling. We're going to do this asymmetrically. So I'm going to pull one side of it over here and just start to bring this down like so. And then we're going to take this part up here and just start pulling it up and out as we go. Like so. That's looking pretty good to me so far. And then take a fairly large brush and just start to plump it up in the middle. There we go. Because the See You Jimmy hat has a bit of the bonnet that kind of hangs off the side a little bit. So, and then I can start smoothing this like so. And the reason I masked this part in the center is that's just where obviously where you would put your head. So we could invert it and like adjust the shape of it a bit. So it looks like that. So it's a bit more head shaped. There we go. And then invert that again. And then we can start smoothing. Bringing that all together, but there we go. Bring in the band. Like so. And just scale that roughly to match where the hole goes. Bring that down. There we go. Let's switch to, I should have done this earlier if I'm honest, but I forgot. I forgot. There we go. So you can see what I'm doing. And then we'll jump back over to here, invert again. And this time I'm just going to sculpt that straight into the head there. There we go. It sounds ridiculous, but that's pretty much it. That is essentially a See You Jimmy hat. And then all we need to do is pop a tiny sphere on the top. So we'll do initialize and Q sphere. There we go. There we go. Perfect. So we'll subdivide it once and we're going to delete all of our subdivisions on these. This is Dynamesh, so let's do a Z-remesh on it. Subdivide it once and delete the lower. Subdivide once, delete the lower. Do the same with the hat. Sorry, the band of the hat. There we go. And part of me is just, feels like we need to do this. We really should mask out the underside. There we go. And add a little bit of depth. There we go. Push the rest of the hat in. And now let's just add a little bit of flair. So we'll add some wrinkles. Put on some occlusion so we can see what we're doing a bit easier. And we'll smooth this out quite strongly. There we go. A little bit of a dent at the end here, just a little bit more of this lip around the edge of the object. Perfect. Now comes a couple of the fun parts. We're going to jump back to our basic material here, and this is where we're going to fill these. So we're going to fill this with black. I think. I'm trying to. There we go. So that's now black. And we're going to make this red. There we go. And obviously for the hat in the middle, we need to kind of make this tartan. So I'm just going to find a tartan image that I've got somewhere. Let's see how well this works. There we go. Perfect. Let me see. No, can't use that one. Bear with me, folks. I just need to find a tartan texture. I've got one somewhere in my resources. Bear with me. Now I just have to go through each of these. I know I've got one in here somewhere, folks. You know what? That'll do. That'll do. And we'll just Copy that to the desktop. Not perfect, not an exact one, but it'll, for the sake of speed, because I don't think I do have a proper tartan one. Not on hand. No, this is the closest I've got, so it'll have to do. So I'm just going to take this object here, go into Z plugin, UV master, turn off symmetry and hit unwrap. And if we go into Z remesher here, not Z remesher, sorry, go down into the tool palette, into UV map and hit morph UV, you can see the texture that we're getting. So that's our UV map. It's not great, but it'll do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my texture that I'm going to bring in here. So go. And then I'm just going to apply that to my model. There we go. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. And, oh, that's weird. Why has that done that? Yeah, that'll do. So the next thing I can do is I can grab the ball at the top, mask it out, and then if we go into fiber mesh, and we'll go into Lightbox fibers and just pick one of these. So let's grab, what shall we do? Which one looks the best? Honestly, yeah, fibers 51, we'll do that one. And then with that done, I can go into the modifiers and I can change the length of these, like so, and then we can just change the color. And we'll change the base to a darker red, and I'll maybe just play with the gravity a bit, make it a little bit more interesting. There we go. And then just hit accept. Yes, there we go. And then to finish it all off, what we can do here is if we take our texture map, right? We can take our texture map, and if we go to polypaint, we can choose polypaint from texture. If I subdivide my object a little bit more and do polypaint from texture, this is now a polypaint object. So that's going to allow me to go into adjust colors, and then I can start playing around with the hue. So I can actually start, let's just undo the mask. So that should work now. There we go, a bit more RGB intensity. We can just play around with some of these. There we go, hit OK. And now we've got a See You Jimmy hat. Very, very quick See You Jimmy hat, but a See You Jimmy hat. And then all I'm going to do now is merge these together. So merge down, and we'll merge them down as well. There we go. Perfect. We can bring everything back, switch our color back to white, and bring back the goofy eyes. We'll take the hat and just scale it back down. Oh. Obviously, it's not a perfect fit, so we're going to have to manipulate it a little bit just to get that looking as it should. There we go. So I think this is something that we'll definitely put on the final model at some point, but we'll do it with a proper texture. I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. There we go. All right, folks. Okay, so we've had a little bit of fun with that, but we have done quite a lot. I would say we've managed to block out our creature. We haven't, and we didn't really know where we were starting with this. It was shall we go with something that's a bit goofy with also a little maybe creepy factor? And we can still get that. We can still bring that creepy factor back in. Just depends how we approach it. Okay, so we'll just have to wait and see. But that's what we're going to do in the next couple of sessions. So like I said, if I have time, I will do a bonus stream on Wednesday, but I will be back on Friday at the same time, so 1 p.m. UTC. So if you do want to kind of see where we take Nessie next, then please do feel free to come along and join in. So that just leaves me to say thank you all very much for coming along and hanging out with me during this this Firestorm live stream. And please remember to head over to the Discord. You'll find links to that underneath this video in the banner below. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Monday and enjoy the rest of your week. And I'll see you all on Friday. Until then, folks, take care. All the best. Bye for now.